So, other than the fact that I forced you to do things, talk a little bit about why you were interested in this project.
I was so hopeful. Just so much of my story and just my upbringing around sexuality has just been silence. Really only silence. And so to be able to talk about it and just know that there are other people out there gives me so much hope for young people to come, and what it could look like for them to have people to walk by them and to be there for them as they walk this out themselves. So yeah, I was really excited to hear you were doing this.
Talk a little bit about some of the messages you got growing up and what the effect was like for you as you were, growing up.
Yeah, I'm the oldest child of 4 children in my family, and I grew up in a strong Christian home. My grandparents were pastors, and so I was the child running through the pews since I can remember. And I don't know if it was ever really spoken to me verbally about kind of any stance or narrative on sexuality in the church, but I had internalized a lot of messages once I got older that I realized, like, where did you get that? I just remember at 3, like, being caught and rushed away and, playing doctor with, pretend with one of my little guy friends. And at 3, I had no idea what I had done, but there was just this shame over my body that it was so internalized from even as early as 3 that this is bad. Whatever this is, like, this is bad, and that you do not engage in this, and that you don't speak about it, and you just push it to the side. So it probably wasn't even until I had started dating my sophomore year of high school that all of these issues around this brokenness around how I viewed my body and sexuality as a whole, really became illuminated, because now I was faced with this and just, oh gosh, like I didn't even know, I couldn't even like really look at myself in the mirror. Like, I just had so much self-hate, I guess, and just desire was like out of the question. Like, that just wasn't even a part of who I was. I think too, in high school when I started dating this guy, it was super confusing for me because I was living in between these 2 polarized worlds where we'd been dating for a long time, so everyone at school just assumed that we were having sex and that I was sexually active, and they started, kind of defining this for me, and I was like shocked, like, oh my, what? Like, what does that mean? And then, being caught in the church where that was not okay, that you did not have sex, until marriage. And so, I didn't have anybody to turn to. I was just caught dead in the middle. And, I think that was the loneliest time of my life, just feeling like, what do I even do with this? And it just, propelled me into just tons of self-hate and shame and loneliness that just completely kind of isolated me and totally kind of separated me from God too, because, that world, that didn't understand me either. So, yeah.
Did you feel like it affected how you felt about guys or faith or women or relationships in any way?
Yeah, definitely. I just remember like thinking like, no one is giving me any tools or resources for this. Like, all I've ever known is just don't. and don't talk about it. And so there'll be the couples in the church that are so happy and they're talking about their fairy tale stories that, they waited for each other and it was perfect. And I was just like, there were no tools for, well, what does it mean to be 16 and have, be fully in my body and be fully woman and be completely in love with my Creator. What does that look like for me, at 16 in a relationship with somebody? And I was just so lost, and I started really questioning the church's views when I found myself so in love with this guy, and just being how could this part of myself be so bad? How could this possibly, it felt so innate to me to want to be caring in that way, to want to be loving, and just, but yet I was just so separated, how, conflicted. How could God, I don't know, create this part of me? But actually at that time I didn't even have language to know that God did create that part of me and that it was beautiful. At that time I was I don't know, I didn't even know my body.
Talk a little bit about your journey from that place of not knowing your body but feeling conflicted because you cared so much about somebody, to where you are now, beginning to question. Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think that, it's been a process. I started taking, I took a human sexuality class in college, and I was just, I talk about not knowing my body, but literally we're sitting here having a test on anatomy, and I'm realizing that I don't know parts of my own anatomy, and that really triggered something in me, whoa, that's crazy to think that I'm gone 20 years of my life and I don't even know that about myself. So just even so many of the tools and the resources that I wasn't given, I read, I'm educating myself on some of this, just starting to, I think the biggest thing is just talking. There was so much silence around my, growing up. I realize if you start, when I start to talk about sex, asking questions, or just in a coffee shop, this guy came up to me because he saw what I was reading, and he, people are hungry to know, to talk about this, because there has been so much shame and isolation on this issue. They want to talk. The youth that I work with, you get the initial, ooh, don't go there, but they want to talk to you. They're hungry for people to talk about it. So I think that just breaking that silence has been a huge part of my journey. I know we joke about CrossFit, but that has been a huge part of my journey, surprisingly, because I'm starting to appreciate and know my body for what it can accomplish, and its strength and beauty in a way that's not just, what it can look like, or what it can do for others. I think that's been a huge part of my journey, as well as I'm starting to take ownership of my sexuality as mine to celebrate, mine to share, mine to keep, mine. It's just mine. It's not, this thing that the church can define, that, classmates can define, but really taking the power to own it and to treasure it, and to know it. Which is so funny, but it's just unfathomable, that that wasn't ever taught to me, but it's so important. Yeah.
What have you begun to glimpse might be God's intent? Because you weren't taught anything. So
yeah.
What do you begin? Because you're learning so much. What do you think? What do you think now is God's intent from where you are now?
I think, I couldn't even fathom that sex and love were like intertwined. Like it did not even occur to me that that could be loving, that anything physical could be loving. So it's exciting for me and just like eye-opening to even dream about, oh wow, like to be seen and to be known in that way, and just to celebrate, I guess, that part of yourself with someone that you truly care about. That's exciting. And to just think about, wow, I know a God that loves me so much that he would create this thing, just for pleasure, or just to celebrate, or to feel good, or to love or care. Like, that's exciting for me. And I'm just the very start of this journey to see, what that might really look like. But it's been a long time to get even there, so that's exciting. So.
Talk a little bit about what would be your hope for kids so that they wouldn't have to go through figuring it out,
Yeah.
so much later. But like when you imagine how the unfolding could look.
Vowing, I will not let this be, the story for the young people in my life that they feel so much shame and silence that they can't even, talk about this. And so, I started talking like the dinner table. It's a common, conversation at this point in my house, and it never was before, and just so excited for how it might be different for my siblings as they're starting to kind of become teenagers and walk this out. And just for them to know that they are so loved by God, and all of them, this is a part of them, and it's a beautiful part of them, but it's integrated just as much as they are, spiritual beings, they are physical beings, and that they don't have to hide this part of who they are, but that God wants them to be a part of it and celebrate that. That is something that I just didn't even, realize. And so, yeah, I hope that for them, and I hope mostly for the young people in my life that they don't have to do this alone. That that there are going to be people that are going to be there for them and walk by their sides. And it's, this is just the beginning of this conversation, I feel like, in the church. And so I don't have all the answers yet, and, but just to have someone there to be by them is my hope. Yeah.